It's a minute to go. Morning, Doug.
Morning. How are all you?
We're good. Looking forward to
Good.
seeing you on Monday.
I'll be there 35 days in a row.
You mean I'll meet you in the Capitol and not on the streets of Salem?
I think I'm going to be stuck in that building. A lot to do in a very short period of time.
Is it still under construction?
Oh, yeah. They're way behind. Last they told us last month is that they're expected to be back in the building by 2025 initially. That's off. Then they were saying 2026. Now they're saying, likely that the building won't be fully operational until January of 2027, which
Okay,
is
so
ridiculous. And they will have spent $2 billion on the project.
okay, how much over budget will they be now? Because I knew they were like 100 million over budget.
Oh, no. Courtney testified in, I think it was March of 2008. I was actually sitting in the hearing that the total cost would be no more than $357 million. So it's, 5 times what it was originally expected to cost.
Okay, sounds like the train in California. All right, it must be 8 o'clock. Oh, it's 8:01. Let's get the meeting going. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I see that we have lots of people here this morning. Doug, why don't you go ahead and give us other updates besides the fact that the building's going to cost $2 billion.
Sure. Good morning, folks. Doug Riggs on your behalf. Wanted to go through a couple things. I'll give you a quick overview, and then we'll talk about a couple letters that have been sent in requesting county support. And then I want to go over briefly the very lengthy bill tracker list, which we have sent out. And there are lots of bills on it that need to be reviewed in the next few days. So just give you a quick update. The legislature comes into session on Monday for the biennial short session. Short means 35 days. So they come in on Monday. They have to be out by March 10th. So it gives them very limited time to get things done. If you've been on this call before, you've heard me say that essentially it's a 2-week time frame. So a committee gets a bill on Monday, and they have until the following Thursday to work session it and send it out either to Ways and Means or to the floor. There are exceptions, obviously. Rules Committee is exempted, as always. The Revenue Committee is exempted, but it's a very fast time frame. So essentially what that means is that bills that have not been vetted to this point, have not had a hearing, have not been the subject of work groups, aren't going to move. So if you look through the total list of bills, you see an awful lot of bills that have been introduced that have not had any public hearings or any real attention during the interim. Those bills are not likely to move. So it'll be the big issues that have had multiple hearings. So the big things like behavioral health, ballot measure 110, housing, homelessness, agricultural issues like wildfire prevention and treatment, those things are likely to move. But an awful lot of the smaller items are not likely to move. The second issue, so you have policy issues and you also have a budget issue. The state announced in January that they're down to only $27 million in remaining unallocated bonding authority for projects outside of state projects. It's not an awful lot of money to spread around the state. So I guarantee you the requests for bonding authority will exceed $1 billion. So there's $27 million in bonding authority, and there's over $1 billion in bonding requests. So that means an awful lot of people are going to come into the session hoping to get funding for projects and will leave empty-handed. Now, there is the option that they can fund these projects with general fund dollars. So it's possible that will occur, but we'll have to wait and see. And, the Ways and Means co-chair in the Senate has been out of town this week, so no one's been able to meet with her. So it's kind of a mystery as to what the thinking is at leadership and in the Ways and Means Committee. Last thing I'll say is you probably saw in the paper that the Supreme Court of Oregon has ruled that Republicans who participated in at least 10 unexcused absences in 2023 cannot run again in 2024. That total number of legislators who's covered by that is 5. There were 10 who walked out, but several of them are not up until 2026, so they have another 2 years. Remains to be seen what the impact of that decision is on the process. I heard Senator Cayden, a Republican, yesterday indicate that he did not think the Republicans would skip any of the sessions. We'll have to wait and see, but that could play an impact on this session as well. So I think I'll stop there, take any questions, and then maybe turn it over to Jen and Nick and Whitney with any discussion of the 2 letters that came in.
Do we have any questions? Jen,
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Last night we had our Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council board meeting, city councilors from all of our tri-county cities plus county commissioners, and we were able to get a real positive thumbs up to the capital request for the Core 3 Redmond Oasis Village Transportation Ask, which is about $1.8 million. So just letting you know, I mean, a lot of aligned enthusiasm on a very specific project here. So we'll get another letter in the record on that. So it's just good for Doug to hear. And I understand there's a lot of asks out there, but we really narrowed this down to a specific ask.
Yeah, Commissioner, thanks on that. Yeah, thanks on that issue. One of the good things about Core 3 is the team has been very good about keeping not only our legislative delegation up to speed, but also the LFO staff. So Walt Campbell, who's the LFO bonding staffer, is very aware of that project, very supportive of it. And I had a long discussion with them last week about the fact that they're shifting focus to support this 21st Street request, which really addresses 3 different needs. And I think that's a good selling point for the project. So I'm optimistic about that one.
Optimistic. Commissioner Chang, did you have any comments?
I would like to ask, I think I understand the distinction, but this is another ask for Core 3, and I know that they received close to $10 million from a prior legislative session. So I want to get a sense of what the progress is in utilizing those earlier legislatively allocated funds, and also how this is different than that prior request.
I'm happy to tackle that if that's okay, Commissioner. You're correct. I think in 2022, Core 3 received slightly more than $7.5 million for what they were calling Phase 1, or kind of the initial down payment of the state dollars that helped leverage other local resources and federal funding. The plan was to be a little further ahead, I think, on the design and development of the project by this point. But because of state interest in expanding the scope of the effort, and Commissioner DeBonne, you can jump in here, but what has happened is that they've decided to postpone the second request, which would be another about $7.5 million. Postpone that request until the state agencies have collectively put their input down on paper, and that will probably be in time for the 2025 legislative session. So in the meantime, I think a lot of the local leaders on the board saw that the 21st Street improvements were critical to improving the infrastructure in that area outside of Redmond in a way that would benefit Oasis Village, the RV Park, Core 3, and probably other projects as well. And so it's a much smaller request, which is probably a good approach given the short session and the limited dollars at this point. And it would also lay the foundation not just for what has to be done at Core 3, but for some of the other projects in that area. So if I understand it correctly, the board decided to pivot and put off the larger request until those two things had occurred.
This is truly a transportation safety project because it's 126 high speed, people coming around a big sweeping turn. In partnership with ODOT, this will add a turn lane and build out that intersection. And Oasis Village is there now, and the more activity, the more dangerous it's going to get. And there's a future request to put, the RV park out there too. So this is foundational. And then from Core 3's point of view, this obviously supports, because you're going to go left into Oasis Village or an RV park, go right into Core 3. So that's the partnership. But then Core 3 is going to spend money in support of water, sewer infrastructure, probably electric utilities too. So Core 3 will be spending some money, and this is the project that supports all that activity. And then 21st Street, once that's stubbed out, it can go all the way up to Antler and really build out the bottom corner of Redmond for future economic activity too. So a lot of positives about it.
I believe they did ask for money last year and they weren't allocated any money. So it was like less than 10 million, but they didn't get a dime.
Correct. Yep.
Okie doke. And the Mountain View Development Project. Doug, do you have anything you want to bring us up on that? I did talk to Rick Russell yesterday.
Yeah, so there are two letters, I think, in your packet. And Jen, did you want to go over those, or Nick, or do you want me to cover those?
I can cover them briefly if it's easier. One letter, there's two letters, as Doug was saying. One letter I brought before the board a week and a half ago, which is the Heart of Oregon Corps. They originally had two asks for letters of support. The first ask was a $3 million congressionally directed funding ask, which the board did not support. And then the second one was a $3 million state legislature ask. This is for continuing new construction on their new campus out in Redmond. I think at the time the board wanted to hear other considerations of asks that might come up this legislative session. So we've had our second one, which is from COIC. We just received this on Wednesday. They have a tight turnaround. And again, this is for the Redmond, they're calling it the Homeless Infrastructure Coalition letter, but it's a $1.785 million ask that supports those three projects: Oasis Village, Mountain View, Community Village, and access to the managed camp on the 45 acres of county-owned land. That both of these asks, they're asking for a quick turnaround time, a deadline of this morning to see if the board supports. The COIC letter is adding a logo. It's a coalition letter. They've reached out to a lot of local government agencies asking to add their logo, and the Heart of Oregon Corps is specifically a letter of support coming from the commissioners with the commissioners' signatures. And I'll pause there, let the commissioners talk amongst yourselves on whether or not you'd like to support those two asks.
Could you repeat what they're asking for this 1.785? I thought Deschutes County was just awarded 2 million. Where's that 2 million going?
So this is specifically, they're asking the state legislature for $1.785 million. It said COIC is leading an effort with the support of organizations to develop critical and required transportation infrastructure to serve one existing houseless project and two near future houseless projects in Redmond, Oregon. So this is the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure ask. And they did, in the original ask that I sent you, I sent you the letter twice. I sent it once on Wednesday afternoon with the supporting documents. They had two supporting documents there, and I'm happy to pull those up if you'd like a refresher. And then yesterday afternoon, I just sent you the two letters that we were going to discuss for today. And I see Commissioner Chang has his hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chang.
Yeah, I'd love for Doug to explain to us kind of procedurally how these kinds of requests work, and also that the very limited amount of bonding capacity that the state has, and whether that interconnects with this at all. I mean, so these are essentially earmark requests, and um, what kind of bill do they go into? Like, where do they show up in the legislative process? I know you've explained this in the past, but if you could explain it again, and then also just the question of, how does that very constrained bonding capacity affect any requests like this?
Thanks, Commissioner. Excellent question, and the answer is confusing and not absolutely clear. So typically capital construction projects like the 21st Street or like the infrastructure for the RV park would come out of lottery bonding authority. That has not been the case as much in the last couple of years as it had been in the past. In the past, many, especially in the last decade, a lot of these projects went by the wayside. People didn't even ask for them. Because for a lot of years, the legislature just chose not to allocate money in this way. Starting with the pandemic and the federal COVID money that came in suddenly, and the increase in gambling, lottery revenues went up. And so the legislature did two things. First of all, it funded more of these projects out of capital construction bonding authority. And then the second thing is it has chosen to fund a lot of these capital projects with general fund dollars. So, for instance, I'm almost entirely certain that the courthouse money we got in 2022 was general fund dollars, not lottery bonding dollars, if I recall correctly. And that was the case for an awful lot of construction projects. So that's been the history and the trend. And the reason is there's more general fund available than there is available lottery authority. Now, the availability of how much is ready to allocate for lottery dollars, bonding authority, is made by an advisory committee. There is more money available to allocate, but the advisory committee has recommended against allocating more money. And here's another little twist. All the increases in the revenue forecast that we've seen since the end of the last session, which would provide another couple $100 million in bonding authority, will not be utilized this year. It will be pushed off until 2025 and that legislative session. So the state could safely allocate more money for capital construction projects out of bonding authority, but has decided already not to do so beyond that $27 million. So that's a very convoluted answer to a simple question, but yeah, and all of us are kind of scratching our heads because the leadership and co-chairs have not been very good about sharing updates on what they're planning.
So are all these requests going in basically saying, give us lottery dollars or give us general fund dollars, whatever is available, or are people actually specifically asking for certain colors of money?
I don't think most parties that are requesting money care at the end of the day. And in a certain sense, if you're the recipient of general fund dollars, guess what? As soon as that money comes in, it's in your bank account. You can collect interest and put that in an investment account. Of course, all of those dollars come with a contract from DAS, which takes many, many months to develop and get out to you. And I could give you 3 or 4 Central Oregon examples right now of money that was allocated in 2023 under a 60-day requirement from DAS it's still not out the door. So DAS has become increasingly a roadblock to getting money out quickly. But typically, general fund dollars get into communities' pockets more quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Devon, do you have it appears that a lot of other people are putting up funding for this ask. such as the city of Redmond has 750,000 committed. It's actually like a $3 million project.
Yeah, so as I say, I'm supportive of the first ask here, just because the alignment of so many organizations. Redmond is putting $750,000 into that project, and it's really, you know, blossoms and builds on itself. So Commissioner Dare, you mentioned you spoke to Rick Russell about Mountain View Development Project. What's his current thinking?
Well, he has a small problem that I probably shouldn't talk about at the second, but so.
Well, there's always going to be roadblocks and stumbling points trying to do such a big project, but should we put our names down on a piece of paper saying, yeah, we support funding at this time, you know, knowing that there's probably not big money coming out of the legislature, but is this a high priority for us? So from your point of view,
It is a high priority because how many years have we been working on this property? 3, 4 years. And it does say that we're giving 50,000. So that's good to hear. No, I could put our name on this.
So Mountain View Development Project.
Yes. And we're talking, this is the COIC Mountain View Development Project. Is that what we're talking about?
No, so as I say, I think of it, I'm sorry, yeah, I was thinking of there's three letters that were in front of us the other day. And I got to the first one and then we were hesitant, you know, I support that first one and then I'm hesitant to think that we want to do too many asks in that area. And so then that boils right down to, as I say, I could get to a spot where I'm not signing a letter of support for those other 2 projects, knowing that they're important and they're coming, but there's just a timing, you know, the next steps on those, both of them. Heart of Oregon Corps is the other one, right? You know, they want to build out their campus, have a home base, and they're going to do great work in the near future. And they asked us for a state and federal letter of support.
I know. You have to prioritize. I know that Rick Russell's going to be in Salem on Wednesday talking about his RV park project. So he's got his day planned out there.
Yeah. So I'm supportive of the first one and the other ones that just, you know, the day before, a couple days before the session starts, maybe not signing the other 2. So yeah, Commissioner Chang.
I'd just like to emphasize that we really want to get this 137-acre land exchange done. It's incumbent upon us to have alternative places for people to go, to ask them to leave the 137 acres so that we can exchange that with DSL. And this RV park concept is one of the only things going on in East Redmond that could absorb some of that capacity. So even with this early stage that it's at, as far as I know, there is nothing else on the radar screen at the moment to serve that need. And I think it needs to be a high priority for us. So I would support signing on to that letter. I would also, you know, the Heart of Oregon Corps project is also an extremely important need for our region. So I'd support signing on to that letter as well.
And I'm just going to interject real quick and ask Eric Kropp a clarifying question. I don't believe we have a specific separate letter of support request for Mountain View. I'm tracking the COIC request for 1.785, which incorporates the Mountain View development, the Oasis Village, and it's a transportation infrastructure supporting all those projects. And then I'm tracking the Heart of Oregon Corps. So I don't have a specific third letter, but Eric, can you pipe in there and see?
Yeah,
They had an ask, but not a specific letter.
Correct. There's a separate ask that coming to the board in executive session next week related to Mountain View. One thing to note on the one sheet from COIC that outlines different projects, and it talks about a managed camp on the the 45 acres, I think that's a little bit premature. I mean, that's certainly an option, but the way that's presented makes it sound like it's a green light, and I don't think it's a green light at this point.
At least I think it's a yellow light, isn't it? Redmond wasn't offering anything on the list. I believe the 45 acres, and then where Rick Russell's already planning on using those 8.7 acres. So hopefully, I didn't see anything else.
We haven't put forward an RFP offering up the 45 acres, and no one has responded that they want to do a project there. So I don't even think we're at the traffic light.
Yeah, so I keep it right down to the 21st Street Oasis Village / Core 3 project. And the other ones, I'm supportive of some future activity, but not a letter of support at this time. For the legislative ask because I'm supportive of those projects.
Can we so let's do one letter at a time, just for clarification. So we have the COIC, which is the Oasis Village, that coalition letter asking for the county logo support on that for that $1.785 million state legislature ask. I'm hearing Commissioner DeBonne saying he supports adding the county logo to that. Commissioner Adair and Commissioner Chang, are you also in support or not in support of adding the county logo?
Oh, I am in support of that. They're doing the first 600 feet of the future 21st Street on this letter. So 600 feet isn't very far, but that's a good start.
Well, I do think we have to consider the letters as a bundle. If my fellow commissioners are not going to sign on to the other two letters, and I'll be the only one, then not to dilute my impact, I would probably sign on to those other two letters and not this one. I'm very happy to sign on to all three, and I see no harm in submitting all three if they all got full support from the Board of Commissioners. But if we're basically dividing up our support and influence, that's the way I will use what influence I have.
Doug, the Mountain View Development Project ask, is that the $6 million?
I believe that the Mountain View is a $4 million request.
He was told to ask for $6 million so that he would hopefully get $4 million, is what he reconfirmed with me yesterday afternoon at 4:40.
Interesting.
So
well,
he's asking for 6.
Yeah, that's a big ask in a limited amount of time,
Right.
although it certainly accomplishes a great deal. So that's.
Well, maybe we should talk about it
I'll
later.
double check on
We
that,
should
yeah.
tell him to only ask for 4 because the funding is so, what did you say, pretty limited?
Well, we'll know more. I failed to mention that there's another revenue forecast coming out on Wednesday, and that'll be the final revenue forecast. So for those groups asking for increased funding, I'm sure they are hoping that the revenue forecast is up.
Well, I just heard from someone who getting tax money back, and she has never gotten the thousands of dollars that she's getting back. So she was asking what happened, how did that happen with the kicker? All right, so I would sign the COIC letter and the Mountain View letter. I was just at Heart of Oregon, and it wasn't that long ago when they just did a big addition there, I believe.
Well, they're working on a campus plan, and now the Opportunity Foundation has offered the property instead of a lease for ownership. So it's exciting, but they need a lot of money to get over that hump because they want to own it and they want to do the property development. So I am lined up with what they're doing. My mindset is let's reduce the asks and get real clear on getting something successful to happen here right now, because you know, Mountain View, if that's the will of the majority party and they're going to get a bunch of public dollars to build that out, they're just going to do it with my support or not. And then Heart of Oregon Corps, as I say, I love the organization. I want them to be successful too. But I just want to narrow and clarify the asks from us as a board. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
So for clarification, Commissioner DeBonne, you're in support of some extent of the Heart of Oregon Corps ask, but less than $3 million?
No, just the first letter, and I'm moving on here. We're spending too much time during this legislative discussion,
Yes.
I think. So just the first letter for the first project, I'm going to sign my name.
Okay. And then so Heart of Oregon Corps at this juncture, we don't have the majority of the board in support of that $3 million state legislature ask. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, Commissioner Chang, if you would sign that letter.
Yeah, so we have 2 for the Core
Mountain
3 request, 2 for the Heart of Oregon, so for the Mountain View request, and I'll just do my own letter on the Heart of Oregon Core project.
Great.
Okay.
I'll reach out and let them know. Thank you.
We should go to Ola's update now unless there's anything else. Are there any other hands raised? Okay. Oh, Tom.
Hello, Commissioners. A couple weeks ago, I had brought before you the legislative concept about Oregon EMS modernization. And I just found out yesterday that it has been made a bill. It's House Bill 4081. And there is a hearing on Monday. And so I began drafting a letter of support. And I want to see if you would approve me sending a letter of support, and also find out who would you like that letter to come from. It could come from the commissioners if you approve it, or it could also come from our ASA committee. They're very well aware of what's going on with modernization and are very supportive of it. And I think this is just something that's really greatly needed and should have the same benefits that public health modernization has had for public health. And so anyways, I have a letter that's fairly well drafted and wanted to see what your thoughts are on that.
What is there a financial ask in it, Tom?
There's not a particular financial ask. The bill does seem to get its funding from licensures of hospitals based on bed capacity and things of that nature. I don't know if Doug has has heard anything more about it that he worth sharing, or but that appears to be the main funding stream at this time.
Doug, do you have anything to add on House Bill 4081?
No, that's all the information I have. In fact, the hearing isn't even posted on OLS yet, so I'm glad that we got an advance notice about that.
What time is the hearing, Tom?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Okay, because we
just
will
know
be
it's
there on
about-
Monday, and I'm sure it needs to be modernized. Appreciate you being at the helm for Deschutes County. I'm more than happy to sign that letter. Other commissioners?
So I'm interested in what's the cause and effect? What's the content of this thing, and what does it mean for? I'm thinking this is local ambulance services.
Yeah, basically, right now, what it would do is start to work on the governance structure of the EMS in the state. So the first year or so, as this is rolled out, would be more about establishing an Oregon EMS advisory board, creating a uniform EMS data system, getting standardized objectives and terminology across the state, so all the EMS providers are in uniform, and also eventually leading to uniform EMS staffing. As we know, places like Lapine and other rural areas have great difficulty with long transport times and also staff shortages because they have more trouble retaining and recruiting employees. So this really would mostly benefit our rural areas here and across Oregon.
Well, so benefit is the future state. Right now, it's just setting up kind of the structure of a statewide analysis and try to come up with some norms across the state.
Yes, it's kind of, they right now have it mapped out as like a 5-year rollout starting January of 25.
Yeah, so knowing that we've definitely have urban and rural and frontier connections here, I support having this discussion. So I'd be supportive of, thumbs up on that.
Mr. Chang?
Is this something that CLO is tracking and weighing in on, or is this kind of like tacked on to our public health core focus area, you know, as a additional EMS piece that CLO wouldn't be following?
No, it is tracked by CLO. That's how I heard about it in the first place. And also how I heard there's a hearing on Monday because I'm the co-chair of the CLO Legislative Committee. And we are recommending, the Legislative Committee is recommending support of this at a priority 2. Hasn't been officially approved by the larger CLO committee, but I anticipate it will be at this point. And the connection is that there are other public health departments in Oregon that also are the ASA administrators, and as well as sheriff's departments in some cases. So there's a county connection to this, both at public health and other levels.
Okay. Hearing that CLO is supportive, you know, encourages me to be more supportive as well. And you know, I definitely, we have seen in the last couple of years how having adequate EMS capacity in our region is a challenge, and I do hope that this piece of legislation can help ensure that across all of Deschutes County.
Yeah, I think eventually it'll trickle down to us. It's just going to take a little time to get things set up.
You mean like 5 years?
Yeah, possibly.
Yes. Okay. Well, we can always be optimistic, right?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that, as far as an OLS update, Doug, is there anything else you want to add at this moment?
Yeah, Commissioner, what I'd like to do is just point out a few bills. As I mentioned, we've populated the bill tracker list, so it's up and available. I think the department heads have access to it and can look at it. But I just wanted to kind of walk through just a few of the key issues that we've noticed just in the 24 hours since those bills went live. If you look at our bill tracking list, you notice right off the bat a bill that we have been talking about, not only in Deschutes County, but at AOC, and that's the specialty court bill. That's House Bill 4001. So the very first bill is a bill that impacts counties. The second bill, 4002, the study bill. This is actually the majority proposal, or will be the vehicle for the majority proposal for the ballot measure 110 changes. So stay tuned. That's something very important to track. That's the bill that Representative Krupp and Senator Lieber, among others, have been working on. The very next bill, 4003, is the medical examiner bill, which we've talked about internally and with staff. Something to keep an eye on. You've got Senate Bill 1592, which trains mental health workers. The DAs and the police sergeants being brought under PERS and early retirement. A couple bills, but that includes 4045. We just mentioned 4081, which is a key bill. Transportation safety and ODOT becomes a big issue with some of the bills, so take a look at this. Wildfire resilience, there's a bill 1511 that we need to take a close look at. And then housing, take a look at 1528, 1529, 1530, and probably the most important bill is 1537, which is the governor's housing bill. That'll be in the mix. Back to measure 110, the Republican proposals are contained in two bills, House Bill 1555 and Senate Bill 1555 and Senate Bill 1588. So take a look at those. Chris Doty had mentioned the right-of-way bill. That's House Bill 1566. So those are just a few of the bills that are on this very long bill tracking list. Corey and I tried to put as many of the bills that looked to be of interest to Deschutes County on the list. We probably missed a few, and we probably added a few that we don't need to have on this list. So my request would be for the department heads and the staff to look through the list and get us some feedback by early next week, because as Tom pointed out, hearings and work sessions are already occurring. So we need to figure out what are the most important bills, what are the, our ranking system is number one. Bill number ones, priority ones are bills that are Deschutes County bills. We don't have any Deschutes County bills, so we probably shouldn't have any ones, but there may be a bunch of twos and threes. If they're not really of interest, fours and fives, indicate back to Jan and Whitney and Nick if they're support, oppose, what the priority is. And please do help us flag any hearings and work sessions. Here we are Friday before the Monday session. And as of 5 minutes ago, they had not posted work sessions or hearings for Monday. They're 3 weeks behind where they were last year and 2 years ago. None of us know why. They've decided to slow walk everything. So they released the bills late. They're releasing hearing announcements late. Kind of head scratching. Not good for the process, but that means we'll need your extra help in helping keep us up to date. So there'll be a lot going on. It'll be moving fast and furious. And just a note to the commissioners that staff and those of us that Corey and I will possibly be coming to you at the last minute saying, our hair is on fire. There's a hearing in 3 hours. We apologize, but it just got posted. Short sessions are like that.
Okay. I just noticed that Chris Doughty said he needs to step away. We actually have a problem with the Terrebonne project, which the commissioners were made aware of yesterday. Deschutes County has $10 million invested in that $30 million project, which was actually Doug set up by the transportation bill from 2017. So ODOT's hair should be on fire, I believe. And thank you, Jen, for putting the bill tracker up for everyone.
I did pop back in, Commissioner. I hadn't quite closed out yet.
Oh, okay. So I know you told me to read it 3 times before I started.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a legislative issue this is just yet, but ODOT's imposing a community workforce agreement on the project in Terrebonne that basically eliminates our local contracting community from being able to bid that project. And it's very troubling and concerning on a whole host of levels. And so we're evaluating options right now, meeting with legal here in an hour. This is something we're going to definitely be rattling legislators' cages on, just because we have to. It's on behalf of our community and the people that work here, not being able to bid a project that's in Deschutes County. That the workforce agreement actually stipulates that almost 30% of the staff of the workers on the project can't live in Deschutes County. That's the zinger on top of multiple zingers in this community workforce agreement that we just can't stomach. So brief the board on it. We'll be briefing the board more on it as we learn more information and start to develop options as to how to plug into ODOT, because they're not contacting us on any of this, even though we're significant financial partners and stakeholders on this project.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for that critical analysis. We definitely need that project. There's 5,000-6,000 people that live in Crooked River, and to turn left at Lower Bridge is such a dangerous decision when you want to go left there. So it doesn't work very well. It hasn't for a long time. So anyway, I hope we can get some good news from ODOT sooner rather than later, so that project actually starts and gets completed. Are there any other items? Do we have any other raised hands?
Hey, Commissioner, I just want to jump in real quick. Just as a refresher for bill tracker, we will go ahead and assign specific bills to specific department heads. So no need to jump in and review all the bills out there. You will get assigned the bills that we believe should be reviewed by the specific departments. And I see Whitney also has her hand raised.
Whitney,
Quick housekeeping bill tracker item as well.
I can't hear you very well, Whitney.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. When you're reviewing in Bill Tracker and you're submitting for the board's consideration, in the past, we've had a lot of discussion around position, especially on issues where staff is wanting to be deferential to the board to set that position. So if you are not comfortable assigning position, and in essence, you are assigning priority and leaving it to the board to determine position on an issue, please mark those as informational. There's about 18 choices of options that you can choose, and it gets a little confusing on staff's end when we're all choosing different options. So if that is your intent, please select informational and we can then decipher that and know what that means.
Doug, how many bills are actually on the bill tracker? How many bills did make it?
Good question. I have not counted the number of bills. I know it's 27 pages and each page has about 4 to 5 bills. So probably around 60 bills that we're tracking out of the 300 or so. And not all the bills have dropped yet. It was kind of a weird situation. They all populated on Bill Tracker, which is a non-state process, and they didn't populate on OLIS for 24 hours after that. So, and there are a number of places where you have blanks. So there's no actual bill filed. So I expect there to be close to 400 bills. Remember, there's a limitation on bills during the short session. Each legislator could introduce 2, and each committee could introduce 3. The governor chose to introduce only 1, but there were some agency bills as well.
So my question, and I'm getting questions right now. So where is Bill Tracker? Do we have a link to it? Has it been updated? I mean, I don't even know where to look to find it. I don't have a link, and so
It's on the chat right now.
okay. Okay, yeah, there it is. Great.
Thank you. Janice, I see you.
Yep, just a process question or request. It's helpful for us just to get a little one pager when you send out the bills the first time around for people that maybe haven't been through this process on some of the nuts and bolts. Like, I like to have my deputies take a look at bills. So I love to be able to assign something out and then weigh in after they've weighed in, or weigh in and send it to them. So just since we're only doing this once a year, and believe it or not, we do enough other complicated stuff, we don't always remember all the steps. A mini tutorial is always great. Thanks,
I will
Jen.
send one out today.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent idea. Thank you for suggesting. And since it's a short session, ending March 10th, we have to get on it yesterday. But it sounds like the state is really behind. Yes, what did you say? The state is 3 weeks behind, Doug? Is that the quote I took?
Yeah, they released bills 3 weeks later than they released them last year. Last year they were released the second week of January, so about two full weeks. Yeah, I will say that my experience with AOC staff and the AOC folks has been really positive. They flagged a lot of this stuff early on. So you'll notice that on Bill Tracker, you'll see a lot of the concepts that we were already discussing 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that were on our Excel spreadsheet. And the team at AOC was super helpful in keeping us up to date with what was going on.
Yes, today we have all of our AOC some of our AOC meetings today, and then of course Monday. So thank goodness they're right in the thick of it. Do we have any other commissioner updates?
I will be traveling from, to Salem for Sunday night to be ready Monday morning, and spending the night Monday night. There'll be the reception at 4 o'clock. So Doug I'll be in town Monday and, Tuesday morning. And if there's something that drops Tuesday that's exciting, I could stay for that. So that's an opportunity. I've been mentioning to the legislators, whoever I talk to, please join us Monday afternoon, 4 o'clock reception at the AOC building. Who knows, how well attended that will be, but we'll see from there.
Commissioner Chang?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, are you going to be in Salem too on Monday?
I will not. I will attend the morning AOC Day meetings remotely, and I won't be at the reception.
Okay, all right. Yes. I'm going over Sunday also, and I will be there Monday, and then I'll be coming back. I won't be staying for the reception. So I have talked to a few people. Thank you. Any other raised hands? It is 8:49. Sounds like everyone needs to take a look at the bill tracker representing their departments. Doug, anything else you want to add?
I'd just say fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be quite the ride.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and maybe the Southern California rain will come up here this weekend so that we'll have more moisture. So let's see. Anyway, thank you all. Thanks for being here this morning. At least it wasn't a 7 a.m. start. That's what I always remember. We used to have these at 7 a.m. So have a good weekend. See you Monday.